The pig thing, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is one thing that I keep hearing out here from folks, that there's an attitude about pigs.
Texas is currently under a biological occupation. We've spent millions on helicopters, high-tech thermal optics, and federal bounties. But the enemy is winning. We thought we knew how to fight this war with lead and steel. But a routine infrared camera in Blanco County just captured something that changed the entire playbook. It wasn't a bigger trap or a better bullet. It was a 30-pound ghost in the brush that we've been paying people to kill for 100 years. This is the moment the war changed forever. To understand why we are losing, you have to understand exactly what we are fighting. This isn't the pink, lazy farm pig from a children's book. This is a genetic masterpiece of survival. Back in the 1500s, Spanish explorers left domestic pigs as a living food reserve. They vanished into the woods and turned feral. Then, in the 1900s, we imported Eurasian wild boar for sport hunting. They escaped, they always escape, and they crossbred. What emerged was a hybrid that is smarter, faster, and more aggressive than either of its ancestors. These animals aren't just roaming. They are occupying 253 out of 254 counties in Texas. The only holdout is El Paso, and most ranchers there will tell you it's just a matter of time before the first scout crosses the line. The biology is terrifying. We're talking about an animal with a layer of cartilaginous plate over its ribs, essentially biological body armor, that can turn a light caliber bullet into a mere nuisance. They sprint at 30 miles per hour. They can clear a 40-inch fence from a standstill. But their greatest weapon isn't their tusks, it's their brain. One of the most common questions we see in the comments is, why don't we just eat them? Why is there hunger in America while this meat goes to waste? It's a fair question, but here is the biological reality that the FDA and ranchers have to deal with every day. A wild hog is a walking pharmacy of pathogens. We're talking about brucellosis, which can cause lifelong fever and joint pain in humans, and pseudorabies, which is a death sentence for local dogs and livestock. Beyond the health risks, there is the boar taint. If you've ever smelled a wild boar, you know. The hormones in an adult male make the meat almost inedible, for most people musky, gamey, and bitter. But even if we solve the taste, the logistical nightmare of processing millions of biohazardous animals in a commercial food chain is a mountain the USDA hasn't been able to climb. So, for now, the meat stays in the field. And as we've discovered, that waste was actually the first step in nature's secret counterattack. For 50 years, the American response to the hog invasion has been total eradication. We treated it like a conventional war. We brought in the helicopters. There is no doubt that helicopter hunting is effective for a single afternoon. A flight team can clear 400,000 acres and remove 200 hogs in a few hours. It's high octane, it's cinematic, and for many wealthy hunters, it's the ultimate thrill. But here is the math that breaks the heart of every wildlife official. The math of the litter. A single sow can produce 2 litters a year, with up to 12 piglets each. To even stabilize the population, not reduce it, just keep it from growing, you have to kill 70% of the entire population every single year. We aren't even hitting 30%. In fact, our aggression might be making it worse. When you pressure a sounder of hogs with a helicopter, you don't kill them all. The survivors scatter. They move into the next county. They move into residential areas. They take the lessons they learned from that helicopter, and they teach them to their offspring. This is the war of wits. Hogs are highly intelligent. If you use a standard cage trap and catch 5 out of 10 hogs, the 5 that escape will never go near a cage again for the rest of their lives. They will scent the metal, they will recognize the fermented corn bait as a death signal, and they will lead their sounder miles away. In 2014, researchers in the Texas Hill Country started seeing something they couldn't explain. They were finding hog nests, the shallow beds where sows keep their newborns completely excavated. No carcasses. No blood trails, just empty dirt and silence. When they checked the footage from Blanco County, they expected to see a mountain lion or perhaps a black bear. Instead, they saw a coyote. Now, on paper, this makes no sense. A 30-pound coyote attacking a 200-pound sow is a suicide mission. The sow is a tank. She will gore a coyote in seconds. But the coyotes weren't fighting the sows. They were conducting special operations. The footage showed a level of tactical coordination that biologists had never documented in coyotes before. It's called high-risk micropredation. They don't charge in, they move in a group of 3. One coyote acts as the distractor. It sprints past the edge of the nest, just close enough to trigger the sow's protective fury. She wheels around to charge, focusing all 200 pounds of muscle on the threat in front of her. In that split second, while her back is turned, the 2 flanking coyotes strike. They don't bite the sow. They snatch a piglet. One precise bite to the back of the neck, and they vanish into the tree line before the sow even finishes her rotation. This happens at 2 a.m., it happens at 4 a.m., it happens every night. The coyotes even discovered the fatigue window. They wait until the rang sang the early dawn, when the mother hogs are physically depleted after a full night of foraging and nursing. That's when her reactions are slowest. That's when the coyotes hit. By the time the sun comes up, the sow might have lost 3 or 4 piglets, and she has no idea how it happened. She can't fight a ghost. This isn't just eating. This is a systematic generation-level removal of the hog population. The coyotes found the one vulnerability that our helicopters and traps missed. They hit the population at the source. They are hitting the future. While nature was deploying this sophisticated coyote special ops team, the human response was doing something catastrophic. From 2017 to 2020, multiple state agencies in the South were still operating on an 18th century mindset. They offered bounties up to $75 per head for every coyote brought in dead. Ranchers and hunters, naturally wanting to protect their livestock and earn a little extra cash, took the bait. Thousands of coyotes were wiped off the map. On the surface, it looked like predator control, but in reality, it was biological sabotage. In one specific Texas county, where the coyote population was reduced by 60% through these targeted bounty removals, the feral hog population didn't just grow, it tripled in less than 3 years. Why? Because we had removed the only tax on the next generation. Without the coyotes to raid the nests and cull the piglets, every single one of those 1-2 piglet litters survived to adulthood. We were literally paying people to destroy the cure. We were pouring gasoline on a $3 billion fire, while the one thing capable of putting it out was being piled into the back of pickup trucks for a government check. This realization hit the wildlife management community like a punch to the chest. We hadn't just been failing to solve the hog problem, we had been systematically dismantling the ecosystem's own defense mechanism. But how did a traditional rabbit and rodent hunter like the coyote suddenly become a specialized hog assassin? The answer might lie in our own hunting habits. For decades, the standard practice for many Texas hunters was shoot and leave. If you shot a hog and didn't want the meat because of the parasites or the boar taint we talked about earlier, you simply left the carcass in the brush. You thought you were doing the vultures a favor, but you were actually running a massive, unintentional training camp for coyotes. Coyotes are opportunistic. They started by scavenging the dead hogs we left behind. They developed a taste for pork. They learned the scent, the fat content, and the nutritional value of hog meat without ever having to fight a 200-pound sow. Researchers now believe this scavenging phase was the elementary school for the Blanco revelation. Once the coyotes recognized hogs as a primary food source, their natural intelligence took over. They realized that while the adults were dangerous, the piglets were helpless, high-protein nuggets. They shifted from scavenging dead adults to actively hunting live infants. Our waste in the field didn't just disappear. It rewired the brain of the smartest predator on the continent. We accidentally taught the coyote that the hog was the prize, and now they are the ones collecting the real bounty. But we can't leave it all to the coyotes. The scale of the invasion is too large, and the hogs are too smart for old-fashioned methods. Enter the smart trap, the first piece of human technology that actually respects the intelligence of the enemy. The old cage traps were a disaster because they relied on a mechanical tripwire. One hog walks in, bumps the wire, the gate drops, and the other 9 hogs in the sounder run away, forever trap shy. You've caught 10% and educated 90%. The new system is entirely different. It's a massive circular corral, often 30 feet in diameter, with a heavy gate suspended in the air. It's fitted with high-definition thermal cameras and a solar-powered cellular link. A rancher doesn't have to sit in a blind all night. He can be at a high school football game or sitting on his couch, watching a live stream on his phone. The strategy is called conditioning. The rancher leaves the trap standing wide open for 2 full weeks. He scatters corn inside but never drops the gate. He lets the hogs come and go. He lets the alpha sow decide it's safe. He waits until the cameras show every single member of the sounder, the adults, the teenagers, and the piglets all inside the circle at the same time. Then, and only then, he presses one button on his phone. This is total sounder removal. No survivors. No animals left to spread the memory of the trap. No professors left to teach the next generation. It's a surgical strike that removes the entire social unit in a single second. When you combine this smart trapping with coyote-friendly land management, you start to see something miraculous. In counties where this dual approach is being used, crop losses are finally, for the first time in 30 years, beginning to trend towards zero. There is one final piece to this puzzle that most people overlook: the landscape of fear. When you have a healthy population of coyotes patrolling the brush, it changes the behavior of the hogs, even the ones they don't kill. When hogs feel safe, they stay in one spot and root deep into the earth, destroying the roots of native grasses and creating massive erosion. But when they know the ghosts of the Blanco County footage are watching them, they stay mobile. They snack and move. They don't have the luxury of spending 6 hours destroying a single acre of corn. This constant movement allows the land to heal. It's a psychological war. The coyote doesn't have to kill every hog to be effective. It just has to be a constant, looming threat. By simply existing, the coyote forces the most destructive, invasive species in America to be more cautious, less settled, and ultimately less destructive. It's a perfect, self-regulating loop that doesn't cost a single cent of taxpayer money. We spent decades trying to manage the landscape with bullets, but it turns out the best manager was the one we were trying to fire. As the human frustration with the hog invasion reached a boiling point, some agencies began looking for a silver bullet that didn't involve lead or traps. They looked toward chemistry, specifically a blood-thinning toxin called warfarin. The idea was simple: build a feeder that only a hog can open. These machines require the specific upward-lifting strength of a hog's snout, something a deer or a raccoon simply doesn't possess. Inside is bait laced with a blue dye and a lethal dose of warfarin. The blue dye is a safety signal. If a hunter kills a hog and finds blue fat inside, they know it's poisoned and unfit for consumption. But the toxic solution has sparked a civil war among Texans. Hunters and environmentalists, who rarely agree on anything, found themselves on the same side. The concern? Secondary poisoning. If a hog dies from warfarin in the brush, what happens to the bald eagle that scavenges the carcass? What happens to the very coyotes that we've just discovered are our greatest allies? If we poison the hogs, we might accidentally wipe out the only natural predator capable of keeping the population in check. It's a classic case of short-term gain versus long-term ecological suicide. We could kill 10,000 hogs today with poison, but if we kill the coyote population in the process, we've effectively surrendered the future of the Texas landscape to the survivors. The Blanco revelation has made the poison debate more than just a matter of ethics. It's now a matter of strategic survival. This brings us to one of the most uncomfortable truths about the Texas hog problem: the hog economy. While hogs cause $500 million in damage to farmers, they also generate millions of dollars for landowners who charge hunters for trophy boar expeditions. There is an entire industry built on the presence of the hog. Thermal scopes that cost $5,000, custom-built AR-15S, and heli-hogging tours are big business. This creates a perverse incentive. If the hogs are truly eradicated, a massive stream of revenue for rural Texas vanishes overnight. Some critics argue that certain landowners don't actually want the hogs gone, they just want them managed enough to keep the checks coming in. But the coyote cure threatens this industry. A coyote doesn't care about a trophy boar. It doesn't pay a trophy fee. It simply removes the next generation before they can ever grow a set of 6-inch tusks. For the professional hunting guide, the coyote isn't a partner. It's a competitor that works for free, 27 nights a month, in any weather. The tension between the hunting industry and ecological restoration is the hidden front line of this war. Are we fighting to save the land, or are we fighting to save a lucrative hobby? To understand the magnitude of what's happening in Texas, we have to look back at the history of the American West. We've seen this pattern before. When we removed the bison and the wolves, the entire ecosystem collapsed into a simplified, fragile state. We spent a century trying to engineer the Great Plains with fences, chemicals, and industrial livestock. We thought we were the masters of the prairie, but as we've seen with the bison resurrection projects in the north, the land only truly heals when the engine, the apex species, is allowed to function. The hog invasion is the dark mirror of the bison story. The bison built the land, the hogs are tearing it apart, but the solution remains the same: the predator-prey balance. A bison wallow creates a micropond for life. A hog root site creates a scar that leads to erosion. We cannot shoot our way back to a healthy ecosystem any more than we could engineer a prairie without a bison. The Blanco County footage is a reminder that the land is trying to fix itself. It's trying to reestablish the balance that we broke. The coyote isn't just an animal. It's a symptom of a planet that is refusing to die quietly. It is the Earth's own immune system, finally recognizing a pathogen and mounting a defense. One of the most fascinating details that came out of the recent Texas A&M studies is the olfactory shield of the hog. We've talked about their body armor and their intelligence, but their sense of smell is their true superpower. A feral hog can detect a scent 5 to 7 miles away. They can smell food buried 3 feet underground. This is why our traps and our human-led efforts often fail. The moment a human touches a trap, or walks a field, or parks a truck, the biological alarm goes off. This is why the coyote is so much more effective than us. A coyote is part of the natural scent background of the Texas brush. To a hog, the smell of a coyote is a constant ambient noise. It's scary, but it's normal. A human, however, is a biological anomaly. When we show up with our diesel fuel, our gun oil, and our laundry detergent, we are shouting our presence to every hog within 5 miles. The coyote operates inside the system. It doesn't trigger the same total flight response that a human hunting party does. It's a silent, constant pressure that the hogs cannot escape. While we are trying to break through their shield with louder noises and bigger guns, the coyote is simply slipping through the cracks of their defenses, night after night, one piglet at a time. While we talk about trophic cascades and biological internet, there is a very human reality that can't be ignored. For the ranchers of Blanco County and the Texas Panhandle, this isn't a science experiment, it's a survival crisis. When a farmer loses 24 acres of corn in a single night, $40,000 in revenue gone before sunrise, it doesn't just affect his bank account, it affects his ability to keep the family land. We've seen the comments, send the hogs to the cities, or let's use landmines. These aren't just jokes, they are expressions of a deep, exhausting frustration. When you spend $20,000 on a helicopter team and the hogs are back within a week, you start to feel like the land is actively trying to push you off. But here is where the coyote revelation offers something more than just data. It offers relief. In the counties that have stopped the coyote bounties and started using the smart trap methods, we are seeing the first real drop in rancher stress in 30 years. We are seeing a new kind of land stewardship, where the farmer isn't a soldier in a war, but a conductor in an orchestra. They are learning that they don't have to kill every single hog themselves. They just have to create an environment where the coyote can do its job. It's a shift from conflict to cooperation. It's about realizing that the rancher and the coyote actually want the same thing: a balanced landscape where no single species, man or hog, is allowed to destroy the future of the soil. So, the question everyone asks at the end of the footage is, can we actually win? Can we reach 0 hogs? If we are being honest, the answer is likely no. The feral hog is too deeply integrated into the American landscape now. They are part of the new wild. But winning doesn't have to mean total extinction. In biology, winning means control. The future of the Texas model is a zero-tolerance policy for agricultural and residential zones, supported by a predator buffer in the wild brush. We are moving toward a world where we use thermal-equipped drones and AI-driven traps to protect our crops, while we let the coyotes manage the breeding cycles in the deep woods. It is a high-tech, low-impact strategy. We are moving away from the lead and steal era and into the biological intelligence era. We are finally admitting that we cannot shoot our way out of a 6-9 million animal problem. We have to outsmart them, and we have to use every ally we have, even the ones we used to call enemies. As we look back at that original ghostly green footage from Blanco County, we have to realize that it wasn't just a recording of a hunt, it was a mirror. It showed us that our arrogance, our belief that we could engineer nature with bounties and bullets, was the very thing keeping the problem alive. The coyote didn't need a government grant. It didn't need a smartphone app. It just needed us to get out of the way. It adapted to the super pig faster than we did. It found the weakness in the armor while we were still trying to build a bigger gun. Nature is never static. It is always watching, always calculating, and always correcting our mistakes. The disturbing thing about the Texas footage wasn't the hogs, and it wasn't even the predation. It was the realization of how much we didn't know about the world we think we own. The kings of the prairie have returned, but they don't look like we expected. They don't wear crowns, and they don't follow our rules. They move in the shadows at 2 a.m., protecting the land one piglet at a time. The war for the American South is far from over, but for the first time in a century, the tide is turning. Not because we fought harder, but because we finally learned how to listen to the silence of the brush. To truly grasp why the Blanco County footage sent shockwaves through the scientific community, we have to look at something invisible to the infrared lens: epigenetics. We are witnessing an evolutionary explosion in real time. The feral hogs of the American South are no longer just escaped livestock. They have entered a state of hyper-adaptation that shouldn't normally take place over centuries, yet it is happening in decades. When the DNA of a domestic sow bred for centuries to produce massive litters mixed with the DNA of a Eurasian wild boar built for elite survival in frozen forests, it created a genetic superweapon. But the environment of Texas added a third ingredient: pressure. By hunting them with helicopters and high-tech thermal scopes, we didn't just kill hogs, we performed a brutal form of artificial selection. We killed the slow ones. We killed the loud ones. We killed the ones that moved during the day. The survivors, they are the elite. We have accidentally bred a generation of hogs that are almost entirely nocturnal, incredibly silent, and possess an instinctive distrust of anything that hums like an engine. This is the ghost lineage. Researchers are now finding that younger sows are beginning to change their nesting habits, moving deeper into impenetrable cedar breaks, where even a drone's thermal camera struggles to peer through the canopy. But here's where the coyote's role becomes even more fascinating. While our bullets were selecting for stealth and nocturnal behavior, the coyotes began selecting for intelligence and vigilance. The hogs that survive a coyote raid are the ones that learn to keep a sentry, a designated adult that stays awake and alert while the rest of the sounder sleeps. We are seeing a level of social complexity usually reserved for higher primates or wolves. This genetic arms race has created a biological feedback loop. The more we pressure them, the smarter they get. The more the coyotes hunt the piglets, the more protective and tactical the sows become. We are no longer just dealing with an invasive species. We are dealing with a co-evolving system. The Texas brush has become a laboratory of rapid evolution. Some geneticists argue that the Texas hybrid is becoming a distinct subspecies, one perfectly calibrated to survive a high-tech human war. They aren't just pigs anymore. They are a response to our presence. Every trap we set and every shot we fire is a piece of data that their DNA is processing for the next generation. The Blanco revelation wasn't just about a predator finding a prey. It was about the Earth recognizing that to stop a super invasive, it needed to empower a super predator. The coyote didn't just decide to hunt hogs. It was forced to evolve alongside them, matching the hog's genetic acceleration with its own tactical brilliance. This is a war of the minds, fought in the double helix of their DNA, and for the first time, the humans are the only ones falling behind. The world is full of these hidden stories, the ghosts in the brush, that are quietly fixing the mistakes of humanity. What do you think? Should we stop the bounty programs nationwide? Or is the hog problem so bad that we need to use every weapon we have, including the controversial toxins? Let us know in the comments. We read every single one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this documentary. The more people who understand the coyote cure, the closer we get to a restored landscape.